Good afternoon, everybody. What is going on? I am Jeff Grant Media, and today we're going to be wrapping up the Supercharged Selvage phase in a pair of Seven Titans jeans. So, it took a little longer to finish this than I had anticipated. We've been getting basically nothing but rain for the past, it feels like, an eternity. So while running in jeans is a bad idea, running in soaking wet jeans in the rain is a really bad idea. So I had to kind of pace myself, if you will, and it took a little bit longer to hit that 20 runs. But now we hit the 20. We have about 90 miles in these jeans. My first check-in, I had about 40. I've been picking up my morning runs, doing a little bit more here and there. So now we're up to about 90 miles in these jeans with 20 wears. The only thing I've done in these is run in them. I haven't worn them out. I haven't worn them to work. I would put them on in the morning, and I basically wash them 2 times now. I ran in them for 2 weeks. I washed them. I ran in them for the other 2 weeks or so. It took probably 3 weeks to get that last set of 10 runs in, and then I washed them because they were pretty gross. Now, like last time, I washed them and I didn't film it because the water was disgusting. You don't need to see that. But the first time the water was kind of green because the yellow from the starch and the yellow and grossness from my sweat was mixing with a lot of the indigo that was bleeding out of the jeans, because these are a loom state jean. These are a shrink to fit loom state jean. So they were still bleeding quite a bit of indigo. So the blue mixed with the yellow, and it turned the water kind of like a nasty green. This time, a lot of that indigo has been washed out either through my sweat or through the original soak in the first wash. So it was still pretty disgusting water, but it was mostly like a yellow, like a dirty yellow, like a brownie yellow, as opposed to that green color. So still gross, still didn't film it, but it wasn't as nasty because it wasn't green. But yes, they did get quite disgusting, and they needed a wash because I was not about to sit here, especially with them like a couple inches from my face, talk about them while they were disgusting. So they have been hand washed. Both times I washed them in a bin, hand washed them with a bit of Dr. Bronner's. I then rinsed them in the tub, and I hung them to dry both times. And then I do this little trick where I turn them inside out. I throw a whole bunch of towels in the dryer, and I spin them for a couple of minutes with no heat. You're not going to get really those abrasion fades like you would if you're throwing wet jeans in, because they're not going to be as wet. So the wetter they are, the more fades you're going to get. So that's when you get those weird abrasion fades. So dry inside out with a bunch of towels for like 5, maybe 10 minutes. I usually set the timer on 10, and then if I remember, I get them out a little bit early. If I don't, they spin for about 10 minutes. But there's no heat, they don't shrink, and it just helps us soften them up so you're not putting cardboard back on your body. So that's where we are. Only ran in these, didn't wear them anywhere, washed them 2 times, and now they're clean and not disgustingly dirty and smelling. Again, 90 miles or so I have in these at this point, and I'm glad this little test, this little experiment is over. Because it's not something I recommend you do. It was a bad idea. It was fun. It was interesting. It was a cool idea, an experiment, but it's not very comfortable to run in jeans. And then as the weather warms up and you get a little bit more sweaty, it becomes less comfortable to run in jeans. So I talked about this a little bit last time. It's going to get gross if you don't want to hear about things that happen to your body when you run. Maybe skip away, and maybe not, because you're going to learn something then. All right, so chafing, it's a thing. You get it all over your body, hot spots. You get it in your inner thighs from your legs rubbing together. You chafe. You get chafing there. It's gross. It hurts. There's things you can do. You put chafing cream on. There's like tubes or like a deodorant roll, and it's called Glide cream or anti-chafe cream. I don't know. There's a bunch of companies that make it. I've had so many different kinds, and you basically put it on your areas. Like you put it in your thighs, you put it on your nipples. I will put some around my waist if I'm wearing a running belt, because the running belt will bounce around, and usually I get some chafing on my lower back. Sometimes, depending upon if I'm wearing a GoPro harness, I'll actually put some like in my armpit area, because the GoPro harness will rub. So you put it on your body where you get these hot spots to help prevent or mitigate the chafing. So the first time I wore these, the first round, I did get chafing 1 time. It wasn't that bad. The second round, I got chafing 2 times. Now, this time it was a little bit worse, but that's because it's getting warmer out. So If you don't know, if you didn't see the first video, you could check it out right here. If not, here's a clip of how I wore them. Basically, I put on my running shorts and a running shirt, and I just put the jeans on over my running shorts, and then I put my running shoes on, and out the door we went. So the problem was, as I got warmer and I get a little bit more sweaty, a little bit more sticky, the shorts were riding up inside the jeans, so the denim was on my inner thigh. So as I'm running, these are my inner thighs, they're rubbing together, and now they're not just skin on skin, they're skin on denim. So I did get some considerable chafing. Now, it wasn't terrible. I did take the next day off both times it happened. It wasn't awful, but day off, I was healed up enough that I can run, and I was trying to make a conscious effort to, if I had to, stick my hand down my pants and pull my shorts down so I wasn't getting the chafing. It works if you do that, but if you forget, you get chafing again. So I did end up getting some uncomfortable chafing the second round, just because it's getting warmer out, I'm sweating more. Now, again, I don't recommend you do it, because the more you run in these, the more you sweat, the hotter it gets, the more restricted your running is going to be. So not only are you going to experience chafing, but it becomes more uncomfortable because you can't take as far of a stride, you're running much slower, you're putting out a lot more energy to get your run done. So it isn't a great idea. But one thing I found out, here's a clip of me actually running in these, so you know I did this. Okay, that was about a 3.5 mile run at 11:58 pace. Had to cut a little short today because I had to get the miss up early for work. But I would say my pace, it's a little slower in jeans, obviously, quite restricted once I get sweaty. I'm normally with Duke about like 11:45 per mile. Without Duke, 11:15 to 11:30, so slow because Duke pulls me, has to stop to pee on like everything, and the jeans are a bit restricted. But all in all, it didn't slow me down that much, and it's about the same if I do the 3.5 or if I do the 5. I'm right around that like 12-minute mile mark, which is pretty par for me. I'm not a fast runner. I'm in my 40s, so it is what it is. So this morning, I ended up running in just a pair of shorts. I wanted to see where it was at. So the unexpected benefit of running in a pair of jeans was my time this morning with Duke the dog was about an 11:15. So running in these, I actually strengthened myself that I was actually about 15 seconds faster per mile. The unexpected benefit is that they are a good training tool because you are working harder to put in those lower miles and you are actually getting stronger. But this is about the Supercharged Phage, and you want to see what these jeans look like. Now, I will say I did expect to have some better whiskers going on here, and you could see some of this creasing here that's kind of set into the jeans on both sides. I have it set, and it's not coming through with the camera, but like in person, there is some faint whiskering going on here. And this is where I kind of bunch up as I'm running. I get a couple these little bunch up lines here. Now, generally your whiskers will form because you're sitting in the jeans and you're kind of bunching them up and you get those high spots where they'll wear. Now, I'm not sitting in these maybe for a couple minutes as a cool down, but as I'm running, right in here, they bunch up, but I'm not getting the fades that I had thought I would get. And here we could see my fades on my knees. They're not as prominent as I thought they would be, but they are close to what I did expect. I didn't expect to have big faded noticeable fades because, you know, I'm not kneeling in these, I'm not sitting in these, I'm not really doing anything but running in these. And as I'm running, my knees are rubbing on the weft of the jeans, which is this inside white section. So I'm not getting the abrasion on the indigo as you would if you're just daily wearing them. But I did get a little bit, and yeah, it is kind of interesting to see that you will get fading just from running in these and getting a little bit sweaty. Now here we have the backside of both of the legs. I did kind of expect to have a little bit of stacking here because as I am running, the sweat drips down my legs, and I was noticing the bottom behind my calves and above my shoes, my ankles, this was collecting a lot of that sweat that was running down my legs, and I was getting some stacking because they were bunching up as I was running. But you can see once they're washed out, I don't even have any creases, nothing stuck. The only creases we're seeing are some of these creases from where they were hanging to dry. So yep, I didn't end up getting any of those stack lines at all. But the place that we do see the fading, and it is even more prominent than it was last time, is in the seat and in the crotch. It is like almost white at this point. It is very bright, and honestly it does feel a little thin there from the friction, because this is where you're getting all of the rubbing. So as I'm running, this is rubbing like the thighs and the seats, kind of like all kind of getting stuck to me, and this is rubbing against itself. So we have a lot of this fading due to the sweat. This is, again, we're going to get gross here. This is one of the sweatiest parts of your body, your groin area. So as I'm running, I'm sweating, and a lot of that sweat is coming from my head and my crotch. And this is where it's all coming out, which is why we have a lot of fading here, and the most prominent fades at that. Now, it does look way more faded and close to white, depending upon if it's not white bouncing off my hand. So right there, without my hand in the frame, that's about what it looks like in person. So they are fading quite a bit, and it's interesting. I did expect the seat to fade, but that is a nice fade. But the most prominent fade is only right there in the crotch and in the seat area. So these are the slim fit of the 7 Titans Selvedge Denim jeans. I chose these because I wanted to have less material so I would be able to run it a little bit easier, but in hindsight, I think the straight fit might have been a little easier to run in because they would have given me a little bit more room in the legs. So as I got sweaty, I would have a little bit more slack in the legs so I can actually continue to run a little bit more comfortable. But all in all, it was an interesting experiment. Now, running in a pair of Selvedge Denim jeans, I didn't get the fades that I had anticipated getting, but I got to see what would happen if I did so. Now, exercise in general, you're probably going to get a lot more fades in your jeans a lot faster. I think the best thing to do if you want to accelerate those fades would probably be ride a bike. You're going to get the fades in the seat because you're going to be sitting on a seat. And then I think your thighs and knees are actually going to get a lot faded a lot faster because as you're pedaling, you're going to be putting some pressure and rubbing some friction on the thighs and on the knees as you're pedaling the bike. So I think if I wanted to supercharge the fades, cycling probably would have been the better option, but I'm a runner, so that's what I did. And all in all, it was fun. I mean, it was miserable at times, but it was still fun. So if you are a runner and you wanted to run in a pair of Selvedge Denim jeans to see what would happen, I don't recommend it. It was interesting, but it was not a pleasant experience that I would recommend anyone else do, nor that I would really want to repeat myself. But it's done, it's over with, and I got to see what would happen. So 7 Titans, thank you for supplying me with a pair of jeans to test this crazy idea out. I did think they were going to be a little bit more faded, but now we all know what's going to happen when you do something really stupid like run 90 miles in a pair of Selvedge Denim jeans. So that, if you like this video or any of my other videos, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Smash that big red button and ring that bell right next to it so you get notifications the next time I post a brand new video.